higher perspective in information. Your host, Harry Wilkinson. Hello, and welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. I am your host, Harry Wilkinson, and this is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks, events, happenings in the world, information, technology, politics, all of it that we interact with during the course of our lives. And we take a step back, we look at it from a higher perspective. And we take that step back as a wellness measure. I've always said that this is a wellness technique as much as it is a spiritual exercise or a mental health exercise, if you will. There's so much information that we are bombarded with. And as our technology flourishes, as we have more and more access to information, the more overwhelmed we will tend to feel. I think that's a pretty obvious truth at this point. And so we need a way to put that in a proper, healthy place. And my approach, the approach that I talk about on this show all the time, is, well, for lack of a better term, metaphysical approach. Now, rest assured that if this is your first time listening to this show, you do not need to be of any particular spiritual mindset. You don't have to be any kind of religious person at all to hear what I'm talking about. You might not agree with all of the perspectives on these things, but there's enough, I believe, common ground that whatever you happen to believe, I think you can get something out of it as far as a way of interacting with the world around us that is healthier and makes you feel less overwhelmed. But my perspective on this is that we, as beings, are more than our physical bodies. That we actually exist at a higher level. That we are beings on a metaphysical level as well as on this physical level, and that in fact we are at that level, at that highest level of who we are, our bigger selves, if you will. We are creating everything around us. Everything around us. In a way that is similar to perhaps a virtual reality experience. In other words, everything that appears to be around you, outside of you, is actually coming from within you. It's actually something you're creating. And further, I will go, that we are creating all of these experiences for a reason, so that we have these kinds of experiences. Similar to the reason you go to the movies, or you watch a television program, or you read a book, to have experience and thrills and excitement and scares and all of those things which you might not have in your everyday life. Because at this level that I tell you about, at this metaphysical level, we are beyond all of that. At the level of what I call divine mind, that's that highest level that we exist, we are beyond things like limitations, feeling that we are limited. We're beyond things like fear and concerns about wealth and poverty, all of these things. We know them at that highest level to be not the truth of who and what we are. However, we create a very realistic simulation. And that allows us to have these experiences, and ultimately in these particular bodies that we have created for ourselves, gives us the experience of exploration, discovery, reconnection to the truth of who and what we are. That's my belief in a nutshell. So when you have an experience, when you come across or interact with something that you find disturbing, you hear a news report, or you see what's happening in the political landscape that's taking a lot of people's attention right now, and you feel that discomfort, you feel that fear or anxiety or whatever it may be, rather than attempting to disconnect from that, which you can do with limited success, my contention is that you get more out of it by allowing yourself, without judgment, to become fully aware of those feelings, fully aware of all of that. Whatever the anxiety, fear, anger, frustration, whatever. Become fully aware of it, let it build, without judgment. And then once you have become fully aware, then comes the change. Then comes the change in perspective. Now you look at that situation, knowing all of those things that it's making you feel, and you recognize the truth of what it really is. It's a creation of your own. It's a creation you have made in order for you to have these experiences. It's not real. It's not the truth of who and what you are. It's not even the truth of what's really going on in the world. But it is something that you have created in order to experience, at the very least, a sense of overcoming. And for other reasons too, which are unique to your particular set of personalities that you've created, and that you have an energetic push to explore. And then once you begin to understand that, once you look at it with that way, it becomes less overwhelming. We'll just put it that way. You become more empowered, and you can actually take energy away from that situation or circumstance. The energy that's driving it then changes, and it becomes something different altogether. And this is done without your needing to push it. In other words, you don't go into the situation with an intention to change it. You just become aware of it. Mindfulness. Through mindfulness. And then you recognize it for what it is. And you appreciate it for the depth and the quality and the realism. I mean, this thing that you created is so real that it's making you freak out a little bit. I mean, that's pretty detailed. That's pretty amazing work when you think about it. Now, often at the top of the show, when I talk about this, I'm generally talking about situations that, or information, or news stories, or whatever that you may find troubling. But this also goes for situations that you find wonderful. Something very exciting or heartening, or something that gives you a sense of fulfillment or peace, is also something you can become mindfully aware of and recognize the truth of how you created that, and enjoy that, and In doing so, that will motivate your energies, that will put your energies in a place where more of that is created for you. So it can be done in with positive things too. I focus on the parts that are maybe cause discomfort because that seems to grab people's attention first of all. But it's a good way to practice too. You don't need to do as much work perhaps when it's something that you are appreciating fully, something that you feel is positive. So it takes less work to sort of remove judgment from a situation like that. But bottom line, what we're trying to get to is the understanding that all of these things are manifestations of energy. Neither good nor bad, although we make judgments about that all the time. They simply are our creations. And quite frankly, they never really turn out quite the way we expect them to. Alright, enough said about that for the time being. So today's topic in our little podcast here is predictions. This is our second part. Last week we talked about some short-term predictions for the year 2019. I'll review those, but we'll go a little bit beyond because there's a lot of really good information from a number of futurists that I feel is really dead on and for the most part very encouraging. Very encouraging. We tend to, particularly in today's times, look at the future with some trepidation. Some trepidation. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you look at our popular media, if you look at movies and television, almost, well, I won't say all, but a more than 50%, I will say, of these movies and TV shows and media are have something to do with apocalyptic thought. Okay, the end of the world is destroyed by something, or the world is on the edge of being destroyed. You get the thing, right? So you can get the anxiety that we as a society are generally feeling. The good thing is that it's through these kinds of media that we work these feelings out, that we again come to an understanding of the truth of who and what we are. That is the most positive spin that you can, well, it's not even a spin, it is what those things are for. You may not feel it at the time. You may be more diverted or your intention may be misplaced, through violent imagery or special effects or things like that. But all storytelling leads in that direction. In any case, some of these future stories that we're going to talk about will seem a little scary, but when you look at where they lead, it really is something to look forward to, something that can give you a feeling of positive energy. So we'll look at that, and we're also going to talk about, actually first we're going to talk about wellness resolutions. So it's the new year, and of course one of the things that people like to